You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? Want to pick this up? Got a simple question. Nike and Caitlin Clark, what's really going on? What's really going on in that situation? And why are they having such challenges, Nike and Caitlin Clark? We want to get into that. We want to kind of just dive around it. It's very puzzling. Nike and Caitlin Clark. My question is really what's really going on. Nike $1 billion fumble. They just have bumbled and fumbled and done everything possible with Caitlin Clark to either establish a failure or failing of the process. Because I'm not sure what Nike is trying to do for Caitlin Clark and the cross selling, folks. I'll tell you. You look at the advertisement itself and the cross selling that has to go into it. It really doesn't make sense at this point. And for Caitlin, it's a tough situation. And you've heard her agent kind of speak out a little bit, just kind of sharing that WNBA really can't afford Caitlin Clark. And that is a moment of truth that is being told that you can't afford Caitlin Clark. Now, what does that mean, or what are they really saying? The price of Caitlin Clark has went so high, and Nike has done a just a true fumble here. I'm not sure where they're going to go with this or what they're going to get out of this because the time is elapsing with Caitlin Clark, and when time moves forward, again, my question is, what are they trying to accomplish? Because the cross selling, I don't think that's going to work. And here's the other thing I picked up on Simone Giles, who's also in the Nike commercial. Simone Giles really had some struggle points under Nike and went ahead and went outside of the brand and was able to generate 19 million dollars in revenue, right? And that's from Simone Biles getting outside of the brand and saying, hey, you know what? I'm under Nike. However, I had to sign with Gap, had to go outside of the brand to be able to accomplish and get the revenue going of the revenue sales. That's shocking to me because now you're talking about an Olympic gold medalist. That brings us back to Caitlin. I'm trying to understand and why I call this a fumble, or why do I say Nike really fumbled the ball on this one? It the question of it is why does Caitlin Clark need to be in a cross selling environment when you have the number one brand? It's Caitlin. I mean, this is the number one brand is Jordan, and the number one brand is Tiger Woods when it came out. And this is what's shocking. And I get it. But at the end of the day, Nike's had almost a year to correct this, and they haven't corrected it. And I'm wondering now, is it the best position? I brought this up before, and I thought, okay, went to the shareholder meeting, and you kind of explained where Caitlin was. However, the challenge is I don't understand the cross selling. Putting a billboard up in Chicago, selling T-shirts on the streets of New York. I don't get that, and I don't see that being successful. Only because if Nike would have done that and came out of the gate with Caitlin right from the beginning, then yes, success could have been in a cross-selling environment. But Caitlin Clark monetary value has went up. And when you talk about XL Sports and their Caitlin's agent, what is she saying? You can't even afford me, right? And so now it's moving into there's some controversy out there because now Caitlin doesn't participate, and rightfully so because Nike, you haven't produced the revenue. You're talking about $1 billion worth of revenue here, folks, and I'm kind of shocked that Nike hasn't pushed this thing forward. You look at Simone Giles, and here's what got me: Simone Giles gets a powerful message from a $419 million brand before New Year's Eve, before Olympic Games. She went out there and basically came in with great power. But here's the thing that I really want to bring home, and let's see if we could do that because this one here kind of shocked me, right? All right, so here's Simone Biles, and here's kind of what happened. Stepping away from sportswear giants, the Olympic instead signed with Gap Incorporated Ath- Athleta in the same year. When the company first announced their partnership, President Mary Beth Logton stated the gymnast's mission to champion the next generation of female athletes. They're looking forward to taking on the mission and forward with the GOAT on board, right? So here's a challenge I have is, I mean, Simone Giles went out there and performed very well. There's no doubt about it, right? But at the same time, you got to look at that. She had to step away from the brand to be able to create and make her amount of money that she should be making. Now, that's why I come back to this Super Bowl ad. And I don't understand the cross selling. And when I say cross selling, I want you to understand you're asking Caitlyn to be marketed with Simone Giles. You're asking to be marketed with Asia Wilson. You're asking her to be marketed with Ionescu. Why would you want to take that and have her start marketing in those positions? Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't make any sense. And because the brand of Caitlin Clark is so much larger, you're talking about $1 billion. Okay, Caitlyn is like Tiger Woods as she comes out. She's by herself. There isn't anybody else that needs to be marketed with Caitlyn. Now, what does Nike plan? Well, we want to do it inclusive. We want to bring everybody together. No, it's too late for that now. Nike should have done that right out of the gate. And the $28 million is a 10x multiple now because of the value of Caitlin Clark. And that is something that people have got to take into consideration because the 28 million just gives you about $3.5 million contract. Doesn't give you very much that you're able to work with that amount of money. Now let's go over to Asia Wilson. I mean, they are pressing hard to try to make Asia Wilson successful. Now, here's the deal with that. Asia Wilson's contract's only $1.5 million a year. That's it. That's the amount of her contract. And you got Caitlyn sitting here whose value is now anywhere from 25 to $30 million a year in marketing, branding, appearances. So the numbers don't add up. And when you look at the top five and you start getting in there, who's really selling what? And you move it through, and I'll take you down to this because this is something I kind of saw. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is telling the story. But you look at the amount of money that you got that's coming in, and what's worth it. Is it worth it right there? Do you got what you want? I see it. But you got the top selling from the merch. You got Caitlin Clark, you got Angel Reese, you got Ionescu, you got Kate Martin even made the list. But then Asia Wilson sitting at fifth. So they're trying to rebuild this for Asia Wilson, and it doesn't really make sense. I'll tell you, folks, when I first saw the commercial, I said, "Oh, this one's not good," because here's the deal: you've got Caitlyn is really so far ahead, and the amount of money that Caitlin Clark brings in from cross vertical markets. Caitlyn is needs to be advertised as Caitlyn. There is no cross selling. That ship has sailed, but Nike's trying to approach it that way, and I for the life of me, I don't know why. XL Sports is really saying, "Look, guys, the contract you signed for $28 million, that's a meaningless contract today because the value of Caitlin Clark is so much higher, and that's where you've got challenges. Now, with Asia Wilson holding back on the shoe and different things like that, well, that's part of the game. I mean, you have to be honest. Nike marched Caitlin into headquarters down there and basically said, "Hey, look, this is what we have. Don't tell anybody." But that really doesn't make sense because the money's not matching up. And until the money matches up, I don't know how they're going to make this work because now you got a bigger problem, right? What's the bigger problem? It's Cleveland. And I said this a long time ago. I said, boy, Kathy Engelberg gave away 16% of WNBA players' money to add on a partner for marketing, right? But there's no marketing taking place. So that's a conflict right there. However, the Cleveland franchise, this is what gets really interesting. The Cleveland franchise for a WNBA team to come out there and market in 2028, they put a price on it. They're halfway where Money Mike said it's going to be. Acquisition fee for Cleveland, $250 million, right? So you got to look at that and say, well, at $250 million, I mean, what would that equal out to the players, right? The 16%. That's a lot of money, folks. You're talking about $40 million when it went to the players for their player pool, right? But the acquisition, the owner's going to eat that up. And this one here, not looking good. Caitlyn and the WNBA, I'll tell you what's got to go down. It's got to happen. I don't see it happening any other way because you got everybody jumping in there and they're jumping in leagues and they're doing everything they can. But Caitlyn's running the show, guys. This thing here, you got to let this thing go. She is worth more money than anybody else is going to step on that floor. And because she's worth more money, you got to decide how you're going to do it, what you're going to do. But as far as for Caitlin Clark, I mean, let's be honest. Simone Giles generated 2024, down 4%, no doubt about it, but delivered $419 million of revenue. I predict you can put a 5X multiple on that for Caitlin. She'll do a lot more revenue than that. And she's an Olympic medalist. I mean, did a great job. Had to step away, get with Gap to get the revenue, the merchandise moving. It's not something you want to see, but it is something that did happen. Got a powerful message, $19 million brand before New Year's Eve. I mean, just selling merchandise. And that's where the shoe, I'm not sure what Nike, I just don't get it on the cross-selling. But it is what it is. Who else gets it in? And Nescu sells a lot of shoes, folks. No doubt about it. Nescu's a good player. And, the revenue that you come in, you look at the top five of who jumped in there and who got it done. I mean, you're talking about five good players, but at the end of the day, Caitlin and Nescu sell more. A'ja Wilson, they're making a push. I don't know how that's going to end up. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're coming to you, powered up by Fanatics, having a good time. Caitlin, just as big as the Jordan brand, bigger than Derek Jeter now, and also getting ready to eclipse Tiger Woods. Nike's got to pull the trigger or bring everybody in, get partnerships. Adidas, Reebok, Hookahs, bring them all together because Caitlin is bigger than the brand of Nike right now. And they just lost $1 billion from since Caitlin came into the WNBA till today. They've lost over $1 billion because they didn't expect the ROI, the return, and they basically have not put the merchandise where it belongs. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. All things are possible to those who believe. You stay tuned.